Welcome to John Martin Talks, where we battle ignorance and apathy daily. The growing ignorance of just how special this experiment we call the United States of America is, and the apathy that we can't or won't do anything and everything to save her. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am privileged today, and you are as well, to have these special guests that I will introduce in just a moment with us here today, that I think they're going to give you some insight on some topics in the great United States of America like you probably haven't heard. And as I said, we battle ignorance and apathy. Well, these two people here are just the opposite of that. They certainly aren't ignorant, and they're not apathetic, because they made the decision to go through the legal process and become American citizens. We have Ricardo from the great country of Italy, and all the way on the opposite side of the world is my good friend Jill, and they're both here to tell you their story. So we're gonna start with ladies first, because with this old country boy, old salty dog, I still have those old chivalrous attitudes, so to speak. So we're gonna let Jill go first. Jill and Ricardo, welcome to the show, John Martin Talks. And could you tell us a little bit about yourself, Jill, and then we'll get to Ricardo.
Yeah, hi, I'm Jill. I live here in Alachua County in High Springs. I came here in United States year 2013. I came from Philippines via fiancé visa, and my husband is American citizen. And we first moved in Virginia 2013 for 1 year, and then we moved back here in Gainesville 2014.
Thank you. And Ricardo, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, John, thanks for having me here. I'm originally from Italy. I moved to the States a little over 12 years ago as a visiting doctoral student. I was getting my degree in applied math. So I went through some student visas, then a working visa when I was upstate New York as an assistant professor in aerospace engineering. And then I got a green card and became a citizen 2 years ago. Now I work here in Gainesville at the University of Florida.
So he's a professor at University of Florida, and you heard Jill talk about Alachua County, Florida, which is where I'm from. We're right here in the real blue lake of Alachua County. If you want to know where we are, look at a Florida map of the counties, and you'll see most of it is red, but up in the north central part, you'll see this blue lake there. I tell my listeners that I grew up in a blue wave my whole life. But welcome to the show, and I wanted to ask you right off the bat. And Ricardo, we'll get you to take this first. Why America? Why? I mean, you obviously could have chosen anywhere to go. You could have gone anywhere in the European Union, literally anywhere, especially with your credentials. Why did you choose America? What made you decide to come here?
Well, John, I'm an aerospace engineer, so I think what the United States have done in that field was obviously very attractive. But to be honest, when my wife and I moved to California initially, we didn't know if we were going to stay for a long time, but we fell in love with the States, mostly because Americans are welcoming. They, lots of people made our life easier than it could have been, and we felt at home quite soon after moving. And you start appreciating those liberties, those freedoms that you don't have in other countries. They are real here, and you start cherishing those. So I think my short answer is the Constitution and the rights that we enjoy are the reasons why we did everything we could legally to stay, to get a green card and then become citizens. We decided that this was going to be our home, and so you have to work hard to do it. And do the right things, but it is possible. It is a welcoming country. It was for us.
Well, Jill, you come from all the way from the Philippines, literally on the other side of the world, and as someone who is an avid fisherman like myself, I mean, I hope my bucket list would be to get to the Philippines. So,
they have a beautiful beach.
What was kind of your motivation choice to actually choose America?
Well, actually, it was really not my plan to marry an American or live here in US. When I signed up in a dating site, online dating site, I was busy running my own business in Philippines, and I have no time to meet new people. And then that time I was looking for someone that has a career and someone that serious in having a good future, having future. And then that time, and then I met my future husband. He was living in Australia by that time. And then so it was really not my plan to live here, to be in US. And then when we came here, I really love it. It was way so different from the country I came from Philippines, because you will see how the people respect the laws and how you can trust the police officers. And when it comes to corruption, it's low compared to country where I came from. And yeah, and it in the in total, the country is super beautiful. The people are really nice. So I told to my husband that I want to live here. I wanna stay here like forever. This is the place where I wanted to our children raise.
Well, Ricardo mentioned something, and I kind of heard it in your voice as well, what you were saying, Jill, that contrary to what the mainstream media would have you believe, that Americans actually welcome immigrants. I mean, that would be a shock to some people, because especially people, they look at me and they say, well, you know, he's got this show and he talks about illegal immigration. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But so this idea that Americans are not very welcome is just nonsense, it sounds like.
Yeah.
It's absolutely not true. Well, there is a major difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants. As a legal immigrant, I received all the help that you can imagine from neighbors, from friends. Everybody was extremely supportive. As long as you respect, you know, the rules of the nation, the law of the land, you're more than welcome here. But you just have to do it the right way, as I think both of us have done. It is difficult, but it's absolutely worth it.
Well, Jill, you mentioned about the rule of law, and I think that's something that is obviously very important, because well, I won't get into that story, but I had a friend. I will just say this: I had a friend of mine. He's passed on now, but he was a legal immigrant from all places, North Korea.
Oh my gosh.
North Korea, and he literally had a tail light out on his vehicle, and I told him about it, and he was worried about driving with, because he asked me, what will happen if, and I said, well, you might get pulled over by the police. And he got all freaked out. And I finally realized that when you get pulled over, like in North Korea, by the police, you might not get home.
Yes.
And so when you, Jill, when you mention respect for the police and their respect for you, that's another message that especially the progressive left doesn't seem to agree with you on that like our police are the enemy. I wonder what is your experience with law officers and the people of our here in the United States? Have you had any experience in that area, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, ladies first.
Here in US, you'll see how the people respect even the simple thing, even in the streets. Compare in Philippines, like right now you see a lot of news, which is true, like happening in Philippines, those innocent people are not having a justice, killing people without due process. And it's really happening in a third world country, and they are saying that here in US, it's way different. It's way different. Where I saw a lot of people that are really respecting the laws.
And you wanted to add something to that, Ricardo?
Yeah, I have direct experience. So I got 2 speeding tickets in my 5 years of. I was speeding, and you know, nothing major. The officers pulled me over. I respectfully asked what was the problem. They explained it, paid my tickets, and moved on. My interactions in those 2 cases where I was wrong was very respectful. They were professional. They actually went on explaining, you know, you have no previous record, you know, you should try to do this and that. And, you know, they were very kind with me. But I understood, you know, I made a mistake, I'll pay my ticket. But then what really happened is that at the moment of applying for citizenship, there is a question on those 20 pages form, have you ever been cited before and arrested, etc., etc. And so many friends and people who have gone through the process basically told me, no, you shouldn't report these things. It doesn't matter. But I did. I felt like, honesty pays off, and it did. So we can make mistakes, but the system, in my experience, is not set up to, to make you fail. It gives you a second opportunity, even for something small as a speeding ticket. So my experience has been just great, even when I was on the wrong side.
I never had speeding ticket here in US so far. Hopefully not. But when I was in Philippines one time, I remember that we're driving here in like it's like I-75 here, but we called it like Islex in Philippines. And so I'm not wearing seatbelt that time. I am a passenger. So the police stopped us with my friend, and we said that the police said that in Philippines. Sir, your friend does not have seatbelt. Say, oh, sorry for that. Like, and then the police actually asking us to just pay us 150 pesos. In US dollars, it's three bucks. So he's like asking us $3 so we don't get a ticket.
So they were basically asking you to pay
bribe.
them off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also like it's sad. It's really sad because like here you cannot do that. You're gonna be put in the jail. So instead of that, it's better just to follow the rules. That's what my parents also telling to us always: follow the rules, follow the law.
Yeah, well, that's wise counsel anywhere. But I wanted to ask you, because I'm going to just tell people how I basically met Ricardo and Jill. I have a little bit longer history with Jill. I just really recently met Ricardo, but I basically know them through politics. I'm a state committee man for the Republican Party here in Alachua County, which basically means I represent the local party to the state and back and forth. And so I met Jill when her husband actually ran. I wish he'd have won. I know Bob Novosa, he ran for county commission locally, and she can tell us a little bit about that. I met them both basically politically, and most recently, and what got me really excited, and I hope you are as excited as I am to have them on the show, is both Jill and Ricardo, not only have they recently become citizens, but they recently joined the Republican Party and actually went the further step of becoming members of the executive committee. So I'm just excited about that aspect of it. And so I just wanted to ask you, what made you decide to, one, get politically active, and why did you, given the choices that you have, choose to become Republicans? Either one of y'all pick that up and run with it.
Go first? Okay. Well, I didn't get to vote in the last presidential elections, unfortunately, but I did read the programs from the two candidates, and honestly, there was already something there that pushed me towards the Republican side, because the president's program was making a lot more sense for me as a former immigrant, and on the recovering economy and many other topics. And then something happened one day in particular. It was a voters registration day, I think nationally, and this event was at Santa Fe College. And there were some representatives or candidates for Congress, and so I was able to speak to some of them. And I'm not going to name names, but I approached one candidate and I asked, what is your stance on immigration? Because that's a topic that is very close to my heart. And the person starts going, well, broken record, I am for DACA, not separating family, the usual, and then states that this administration wants to remove green cards. And I said, well, that is not true. The plan that was proposed, the bill that is, by the way, on the congress.gov webpage, that didn't become law, unfortunately, does not do that. And I went on explaining what the reform was about. So this person is a person who goes in public, talks to young people, and lies, and basically says things that are not true. And so, a combination of personal experiences and reading programs, going to the right sources, made me feel that the Republican Party is the way for me to keep America, the country that I chose as my home, to protect the freedoms and the Constitution, because I don't see the same anywhere else. So that's why I am a Republican, and I would like to make my part.
How about you, Jim?
When I first came here, 2013, so my husband loves to watch news. Of course, I love to watch news also. So I always hear this Democrat, Republican, and Libertarian. My husband is Libertarian. So I was like, that's the start that I all like it synced to my head, these three. And then one time we are in playing game with my father-in-law. So my father-in-law is far left. He's Democrat. So Democrat, Libertarian, and me. I do not know what that time I am. So that time I asked my husband. I asked, so what is this Republican, Democrat? And then so my husband explained it to me. So are you this? He gave me the choices. Are you this? Do you support this? Are you pro-life or are you like that? And then I said that, oh, I think that's me. I'm conservative. And then my father-in-law, he looks so upset. No, you're not. He said, he said you are, they are corrupt. I said, really? So then I started to like watch news. And that time, it's like, I started to watch all the news about this Republican, Democrat, and Libertarian. My husband never pushed me like, you can be Libertarian, you can be, he wants me to feel what I am really. And that time, I was like really sure I am Republican, I am conservative because I am pro-life. I don't believe on killing babies. And I like Republican also because I like that they support our constitution. I like that we follow the laws. We cannot just like excuse or because every country has laws. Even the most poor country has laws. Philippines has laws. You need to follow it. Even you're American, if you for example, if your visa, how do you call it? You stay,
your visa expired.
yeah, you still be in trouble. Okay. So it should be also like that here. You cannot reward a bad behavior. That's what I am always telling. So that's how I become a Republican. That's how I become a conservative.
Well, it sounds like your husband. He's a smart man, not only by choosing you, by giving you that choice. And,
yeah.
And I was thinking about something that you said, Ricardo, because one of the reasons why I do this show is, as I say, to battle ignorance and apathy. And lately, it's been to battle outright lies, because you have so many people that are now. I mean, this Trump derangement syndrome that we have out there. And we're going to talk about the president more in just a minute, but it seems like that people just throw stuff out there hoping it'll stick to the wall. Yes. And the fact that you actually stood up to this person and told them the truth, I doubt it did much for them, but it certainly does a lot for me, because it gives me a great hope for the future that we do have immigrants like you, both of yourselves, coming here, and I hope people are sharing this with me out there, that we desperately, talk about immigration, that we need desperately need people that believe in the American way of life. And you both have mentioned multiple times the U.S. Constitution, and that just, it does my heart a lot of good. But I want to ask you a little bit about President Trump, because both of you, and please correct me if I'm putting any words in your mouth, but not only did you make this choice to become citizens of the United States, then you chose to become Republicans, but both of you, from what I can see, are actively supporting President Trump. Could you speak to your reasoning behind that as well?
Yeah.
Want to go first?
So when I first came here, like what I said, I always watch news, and when President Trump ran that time, I like everything he said, but I was kind of skeptic that time. Can he do this? Because I came from poor country where politicians are like all promises, but they did not do it. And then, can he do this?
That happens here, by the way. But go ahead, I didn't mean to interrupt.
So,
you're not escaping from that, let me tell you.
And then, when he won, I was really happy when he won. I was like, really, like, that time, I still not citizen that time but I always like pushing, like telling to people, vote for him. I really on his side, and we're like, my husband and I like waiting for him that time to win, and like 9 p.m. It's like, oh my gosh. And then after he won and all his promises that he said, he's doing it. I don't know why people getting mad. But everything he's doing is those he promised when he's running. So I like him more after he win. Before when he's running, I like him, but I'm worried that he cannot do it. Like, it might be promises or what, but I like everything he's saying. But I hope he can do it after he win.
Well, for me, when it was running, I was a little skeptical. I thought it was funny, sometimes almost disrespectful. Definitely, an outsider. So I wasn't sure. I definitely liked lots of the, the stances he had, especially on immigration, and not only. But yeah, now fast forwarding, yes, he's delivering.
Yeah.
I would love to see more delivered on immigration, but really, I see that a lot of people probably don't like his style, and that's fine. You don't have to like the person, but what I started to do is go on the right sources and actually read the bills that he's supporting. Those documents really tell you what they're trying to do, and I couldn't agree more on many of the reforms that he's pushing through. So really, I am a supporter in the sense that I want my country, my interests to come first. I want to be protected. I want the rule of law to continue here because I see what happens when it doesn't outside of the nation. So yeah, that's why I think, I hope it wins again, even though it will make lots of people very upset. I'm probably losing friends right now, but I've lost some friends because of my ideas. But honestly, I think the job of the president is to care about his nation.
Yeah, well, he says put America first, but hey, you're not alone there. I've lost a few friends, and actually some family members have kind of turned against me on that because, which I've never really understood, but it is, I guess, it's freedom comes with a certain price. Well, I wanted to ask you something a little bit because I know you, Ricardo, are from Italy, and Italy is kind of a classic European, now socialist to a certain extent country.
Yes.
Big part of the EU, and of course we know what's happening in England. And then, Jill, you, by your own words, say you come from a country that is supposed to be a democracy, but in effect is really corrupt. And I mean, they've had unfortunately, the Filipino people have had to deal with corrupt officials at every level that have literally robbed them. So I wonder what your thoughts. I'll start with Ricardo. What's your thoughts, and you can certainly chime in on this as well, Jill, about this movement that we have from the left. It seems like every candidate running for president on the Democratic side is openly pushing socialism. And I wonder what your thoughts are coming from, really the heart of socialism to a certain extent, the EU. What are your thoughts on that, Ricardo?
Well, I have many thoughts, starting from Italy, and then we can move to other countries. Just a quick example. Public health, nationalized health. If you're pregnant and you want your 3-month ultrasound done, they may tell you to come back after a year. And I'm not kidding. This is something that I have seen. That's the public system we have in Italy. It's there, it doesn't work. So people go private.
Let me get this straight. So you're saying your 3-month ultrasound will take you a year to get it. So the kid will be celebrating it.
They will do the ultrasound on your kid probably.
Well,
I'm not joking. I'm not joking. So you are charged on your paycheck because of the public health system. Plus, you go private if you can to get something done. So some things that are proposed by some politicians here, I don't think they know what they're talking about. Especially Northern European countries. Finland has been used a lot as an example. In terms of there is a way to rate happiness. This country is the happiest in the world, and they are a socialist system, which is not entirely true. The one thing they don't tell you is how many people live in that country. What is the diversity of that country? They're all the same. There are other inputs into the equation that are not made public, so they're not comparing apples to apples. What they do there would never be applicable here. And in terms of socialism, I think we have enough examples of failures. And one aspect that I want to always remind people is that, the Nazi party was the National Socialist Party. Mussolini in Italy was a socialist. I'm not making this up, it is a fact. These were socialist regimes, and we know how they ended up.
So there was a history prior to 1970.
Of
Because
course.
a lot of these
Of
snowflakes
course.
think that the history of the
course.
world started about
So
1970.
those are the examples of world wars, and I think that should be enough to steer clear from those ideas, and try to find other solutions. Capitalism is not perfect, but so far, I think it hasn't created the damage that socialism has.
Well, what do you, I know, like I say, Jill, you don't directly come from a socialist country, although I'm sure they have a lot of elements of socialism
Yeah.
there. But what are your thoughts on, because you mentioned the Constitution several times, and in essence, and these are my words, but in essence, it seems like the progressives that have taken over the Democratic Party want to either flat out do away with the Constitution or just ignore it, which I maintain is even worse, like act like it doesn't exist. So, what are your thoughts on socialism, the Constitution, the direction that the progressives seem to be campaigning literally on and pushing for this country? Any thoughts on any of that?
Yeah, it's socialism. Like, there's no free. Like, when I hear it, like, from co-Filipino, there's no free. Someone is paying for it. Philippines used to be one of the richest country in Southeast Asia before. And then Aquino came, the former president who admired Obama so much. That's how I don't like Obama. Since I was in Philippines, I actually started not to like him because I was studying masters in mass communication that time. So we studied all this, and then in my class, my prof and they're laughing about how Aquino following all the policies of Obama. That's how our country destroys because of this because of the liberals also in Philippines who sit, and that's how they don't understand the people here who push this socialism, who push these liberals, these Democrats, because we have a former president who copied everything Obama, and that's destroyed my country. So I tried to explain that to the people here. I cannot support you. That those policies is the one who destroys my country.
Ladies and gentlemen, have I not brought you the best and the brightest here? I mean,
I would add one more comment.
go ahead,
if you
go
don't
ahead,
mind.
Ricardo. Yeah, absolutely.
This new rising of socialist ideas, I think it's very common among young people. I don't have a difficulty imagining, a young student who was a socialist today and then maybe enters a very successful career and starts making six-figure, salaries, and then switches over. It's just that when you're young, all these ideas probably seem great, but when you start having something that you worked hard for, and it's yours, I don't know how much you're ready to give it away for a greater good that doesn't even exist, that is just control from the government. So I always warn young people to be careful, because one day they may be the ones whose pockets are going to be explored by the government.
Explored. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, well, I think part of the problem is the in our education system, and some of it is just being young and carefree and all that, but some of it is when you mentioned, Ricardo, like fascists in Italy and the socialists both in Italy and the Nazis in Germany. Quite frankly, a lot of our young people really just don't understand the consequences of that. They don't, and it's a shame, and that's one of the things I try to do here on the show. But as someone who I know both of y'all have kids, I think, right?
I have kids.
So that brings me. What are your thoughts on the educational system in the United States and in public schools? Have you, and especially at the high school and high school and below level, what are your experience there, and what are your thoughts on that? On what's happening? I personally believe that they're not teaching the overall history of the United States of America. I believe they should teach the good, the bad, and the ugly, so to speak.
So I'll tell you, my daughter is in second grade, and she's going to a private school where they actually do teach that. I was very happy to see that they have a flag, and they recite the Pledge of Allegiance every morning, and they do study history, I think, the right way, completely. I mean, they're still in second grade, so there's certain things that they're not facing yet. But at the public level, I haven't been exposed to it much. But I think, yes, there is a lot of filtering of information that is not conveyed to the kids, that it's hurting them in the long run. it's yeah, that's what I'm
Anything you
saying.
want to add to that?
My kid is still in my eldest is still in VPK, so I still, but what we do in the house, my husband and I, we don't, we tried my son to like, think, like for example, like this one time, it's like the slice of cake, because we don't like our kids to be brainwashed by the education system. I want them like to teach should be they teach to the kids, like math, about English, science, or about Constitution, about U.S. history, but not like brainwashing about this. I don't like them to feed with the political agenda, you know that. So what we do is to my eldest son one time, so he has a playmate in the house, and he's slicing. We're giving him a cake, and then he told to one of his friend that I don't want you to have a cake. And then my husband and I told him, not because you don't want, the other person cannot have too. Like don't like, you know, that force something, or let the people decide.
So you wanted to show them economics 101
Yeah.
about taxation and the cake, and I get it, I get it. I get it. So, you know, Ricardo, you was talking about the Pledge of Allegiance in the school and the flag and everything else. So that brings me to something about, because we keep hearing that one of the things that the left will constantly do is they talk about cultural appropriation, that somehow getting people to you know, immigrate here and get within the system of the United States, that somehow it's cultural appropriations. To ask to expect people to you know, salute the flag and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and the Star Spangled Banner, that somehow that is not assimilation and all. And so to me, have you ever felt, and I ask this of both of you, have you ever felt that your culture, whatever aspects of your home culture you want to bring into you, that there's been an active means of with citizens to oppress that, to keep you from expressing yourself? Because that's the image that the left is painting.
Absolutely not.
You
I
follow
think-
me? Maybe
yeah.
I'm not explaining that correctly, but
I
yeah.
think as an immigrant who came here in U.S. Legally, I think for me and some of my friends that are also legal immigrant, we wanted to adjust what is the culture here, and we don't like to like. We still, of course, we love the country that we came from, but we don't like it like to push through it here. But instead, we adjust what America has. We don't like to like change it. I think as legal immigrant, we came here, we want to work hard here, but we don't like to. We wanted to adjust or make it improve.
It sounds like you
Yeah.
both want to defend the very things that drew you here to start
Yeah,
with.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
a choice. So you choose to become a citizen, which means you're embracing, again, constitution and
Yeah.
certain rights. So I was looking forward to be able to put my hand on my chest, you know,
Yeah.
for the national anthem as a citizen. So I don't know what they're talking about. Honestly, there's there's freedom of speech, freedom of religion.
Yeah.
I can be as Italian as I want with my, habits and, traditions in my house, and no one is preventing me from doing that.
Yeah.
As long as I respect the laws that are out there. So I don't think there is any oppression at all. Actually, again, the country is welcoming. People want to know
Yeah.
about your culture. They want to, understand it. And now that I have kids, it's funny because you see the Italian culture that my wife and I bring in, and the American, because the kids go to school, they're blending in. It's almost like you get the best of the two
E
worlds.
pluribus unum.
Yeah.
Out of the many, one.
Exactly. So
that's what it's supposed to
there's
be.
no fight. There's no oppression. There's no elimination of
The
your
left-
culture. No.
Yeah, the left saying that it's hard to come here, so it's much better like that accept them. Like it's not hard, I know a lot of people that are not rich that came here. You just need to be honest. US is very generous country and they can understand. I know some people who failed their visa, and even they show all their property, thick title of their lots in Philippines, and they fail. You need to be honest. You need to be honest to the system. You need to follow the law. You cannot. That's the problem with some failing on their visa, because they lied, and the US they just want you to be honest, like during interview, because when you come here, you need to process your, like me, K1 visa, and then we move it to, we have a medical also for like 2 days. They have their own hospital in US, in Philippines. The US embassy has their own clinic, own hospital, where they do all the medical for immigrants who will come here. So it's unfair to me to see like these illegals who will come here. What if they bring disease? Because
they are.
yeah, I stayed in the hospital for 2 days. Like they check everything to me. They check all, and then they check if you have vaccines and all this. For 2 days, I stayed in the hospital, and it's unfair if the.
Well, we're going to talk about that in just 1 second, but I wanted to make a point to you. In fairness to you, I just want to. I should have put this disclaimer out there to you from the beginning that when it comes to cultural appropriation, especially food, I will cultural appropriate it all. And I have a tremendous amount of experience in cultural appropriation of Italian food, let me tell you. I don't have that much with the Philippines, although Jill brought me a care package here. She knows the way to a man's heart. She brought me some delicacies, so to speak, from her country, and I am going to culturally appropriate them at my earliest convenience. So, you know, if you're worried about cultural appropriation, you're looking at like the king of it, because I'm going to take the best of both of it, food-wise. That's probably why I looked at. But you mentioned illegal immigration, so let's move into that. What are your thoughts about illegal immigration? Jill just mentioned the fairness of it, and the disease. I mean, it literally is overwhelming as we're speaking. As we're speaking right now, there truly is a crisis. Even the New York Times, and I covered it on yesterday's show, even the New York Times is starting to call it a crisis. So what are your thoughts about illegal immigration, maybe how the president is handling it, not versus, you know, just in general, what about illegal immigration? How are we responding to it? And generally your feelings as a legal immigrant viewing that. I think our listeners would love to hear that. So any one of y'all want to tackle that? Go ahead.
Yeah, I think those who wanted to come here, I believe they need to do it in a right way. I don't think that I'd have no money. They will not going to accept me. Just apply. Just try it. Just be honest. And when I came here, it took me like, I think June, July, I think like 5 months on my papers and all, including the medical, before I came here. So I think in illegal, it's fair if you follow the rules before you come here, because all the countries has laws that they also followed, and you cannot just cross the country and you know that.
Well, I mean, there is a reason why it's called illegal, right? That explains it all, in my opinion. But, you know, you need to go and check the actual data. Department of Homeland Security.gov, they estimate 11 million illegals in the country. Latest numbers show, I think, 1,000 crossings per day, give or take. And those are the ones that are detected. So
They're projecting it to be over 1 million this year alone.
Right. So I don't know what a crisis look like, but this, I think, is a crisis. It is dangerous. It is unfair.
Yeah,
honestly,
it's unfair.
why do we welcome those south of the border, but we don't care about people in the Philippines who would like to come here? I mean, those south of the border just have an easier, you know, access, but there's billions of people around the world who would like to come. We don't care about those. So it's just, you know, wrong, I think, on many different levels, especially because this nation is already very welcoming. That's a million new immigrants that come in every year, plus all the temporary visas, plus the ridiculous green card lottery that brings in 50,000 randomly selected residents, plus asylum, which is another 100,000 people. I think this country is doing a great job already, but you know, an influx of people who we don't know who they are, we don't know where they go. It's just ridiculous. Why should we do that? And this is not being hateful towards these people. I feel for them. Many of them probably are entitled to asylum, but unfortunately the immigration system is so broken that they just can come in the millions. And I don't know where this is going to end up, but it's not going to end up well because, you know, we already have 11 million people we don't track.
Well, that brings me to another. So, you've been talking about, both of you have mentioned how welcoming the American people have been to you, and now you are those American people to welcome us. So, what are your thoughts about like this concept of sanctuary city and that type of thing? I mean, would you want to live in a sanctuary city? Because most of them look like they're pretty bad. I know you mentioned, Ricardo, you spent some time out in California, and I have really bemoaned how California used to literally be the land of gold. It was the place we all wanted to be. It was the place that, it was, I've said San Francisco used to be the jewel, and now it's kind of the stool, because, they literally got a poop map for feces on the street. So, California to me has just been decimated. But what is your idea of, what are your thoughts on this concept of sanctuary cities? Both of you want to tackle it.
I can start. So I lived in California. I can tell you there's some cities. I lived in Monterey, which is south of San Francisco, for 4 years. There are some cities nearby where immigrants don't go because there are dangerous illegal immigrants. They tell you not to go. There are some cities that are off limits.
So you're saying that immigrants that are here legally, or don't, there's areas where they
there are areas where they don't go. Plus, California is the one state that issues some kind of driving permit, which is not called a driver's license, but they issue driving permits to undocumented people, because there were a lot of hit or runs because of illegals not having a driver's license and then not having insurance. So the DMV decided to actually give them a permit to drive, even if they show up with no documents. When I moved to California to get my driver's license, I had to show my passport with the stamped visa. Now it's not the case anymore. So instead of resolving the problem of people coming in illegally, we are changing the structure of the state and the nation to welcome illegal immigration. This is insane. This is absolutely insane. It's like saying, okay, starting tomorrow, murder is legal. You can do it. And I'm sorry, some people will get really upset that I make this parallel, but yes, they're both crimes.
Well,
they're both crimes. They're federal crimes. And so California is in a ridiculous shape right now. I would never go back there.
I had a guest on the show a couple of months ago, Sabina Durden. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's one of these angel moms. And she actually was a legal immigrant from Germany. And she married a soldier. And they had a son. And her son was killed by a drunk driver, illegal immigrant, on his third DUI, had been come across the border, I think 3 or 4 times, had an assault charge, and her son was killed by one of these illegal aliens you were talking about in California. And I had her on the show. She's actually talked to the president and all about that. So you're absolutely right. It is insane. That is definitely the word I would use for it. Any thoughts? Go ahead.
Do you have like now I am now American citizen. What about our protection from them? I mean, they got protection from the liberals, from the left. How about us who are a U.S. citizen? I mean, that's what makes me sad to the left, because you're protecting these illegals, these sanctuary cities. How about us? How about the people that are legal here? Because a lot of crimes are happened by these illegals, and what protection we got from these people. I mean, for me, they should go back to their country where they came from and then process their papers coming back here.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I'm going to play a video for you here. Now I'm going to have to pass these headphones over so that they can hear it. I've actually heard it. So I want to pass this over to you, Jill. And we're going to play a video. Let me set this up for our listeners. And I've played it on the show a couple of days ago. This is a video of Ilhan Omar, who is a representative to the U.S. House of Representatives. And she also is supported by Hamas, a terrorist. These are my words. I'm not using their words. That I maintain she's a terrorist because she supports terrorists. They support her. She raises money for them. They give money to her. But she's speaking to CARE, which is the Council for American Islamic Relations, at a fundraiser. And the question of 9/11 comes up. And I know both of you were not here during that period of time, but I know we talked off the air about it. You know a great deal about it. I want to play this video of Ilhan Omar keep in mind, she is a U.S. Congresswoman, and she's speaking about 9/11 and a couple of other issues. Can we play that, Gabe?
Because here's the truth. Here's the truth. Far too long, we have lived with the discomfort of being a second-class citizen. And frankly, I'm tired of it, and every single Muslim in this country should be tired of it. CARE was founded after 9/11 because they recognized that some people did something and that all of us were starting to lose access to our civil liberties.
Thank you, Gabe. So there's a lot to kind of unpack there. We're going to talk about the 9/11, but Ricardo, when you heard it the first time, you mentioned this idea of second-class citizen that she mentioned. Could you expand on that?
Well, I mean, she's a congresswoman. So the fact that she's stating she's part of a group that is a second-class citizens and she's a congresswoman, I think it's a contradiction right there. She was able to reach that level in our government. So I honestly don't know what she's complaining about. Is she the only lucky Muslim who was, not a second-class citizen? Because I think she's just contradicting herself. And I know Muslims. I met several. I lived in 4 different states: California, New York, a couple of summers in New Mexico, and now Gainesville. I have never seen a second-class citizen, ever. So I don't know what she's talking about, but she's there as a congresswoman. She should know better. She's just lying. And then the second part is revisiting history. It's been almost 20 years since 9/11, right? And so as the time goes by, people can forget and they can be convinced that history has been different. And I'm afraid that this is what we're starting to see now. Some people did something. We know exactly what happened. So that is rewriting history. I read somewhere that human beings have a memory of what happened in the past that can go maybe 50, 100 years back, but then it's lost. This is still 20, but I'm afraid that they're going to start revisiting stuff for their agenda.
And being from Italy, you know a thing or two about history.
Oh, yeah.
Because you literally live in the middle of it.
And there's still people in Italy who think that, Mussolini was a great guy. He did some things good, except then he killed millions of people with his friends. So
he did something to somebody, right?
Someone did something, right? So this has been seen before, has been heard before. I don't know why we should have this in this country. There's 2 new congresswomen, women that were elected during the midterm, and actually both my wife and I cheered, even though they are on the other aisle, because hey, see, also women can access these positions, and maybe they will make a difference. And they're just making fool of themselves, really, in my opinion. But yeah.
Any thoughts on any of that video there, Jill? Well, she's talking about, first of all, second-class citizens. That she, and I think Ricardo brought it up really well, that somehow she made it all the way to Congress, but she's a second-class citizen. Have you ever felt like a second-class citizen?
No, I really feel super lucky here. I also, it's like all this. I'm not a feminist. It's funny when I see these people like rallying, like you are fighting for a rights that you already have.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, she's also the one, and I don't know, I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You might speak to this, Jill, or I mean, to me, she got special permission to wear a version of the hijab, the hat, and the religious aspects of it, I don't particularly have a problem with, but it was against the rules in Congress. My problem is that what that hijab represents, and especially this is where I get really confused with women. How can women support that when the mere wearing, and maybe I don't understand, but the mere wearing of that hat, because not all Muslims wear those, the mere wearing of that hijab is a submission to men and that kind of thing. So, there's some things that come from different cultures that might be best left behind. I don't know. I'm very confused over that aspect of it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true. In Philippines, the southern part of Philippines is Muslim. and the middle and the top are Christian. And so I'm not really this Muslim thing. I don't want to be called Islamophobic. I'm not. It's just that my parents and people in upper and middle part of Philippines, my parents don't allow us to travel in the southern part of Philippines because of the terrorism. The terrorism in Philippines happens in the south part because during the, how do you call this, during the history. So like my parents, they never let us to travel on the southern because of the terrorism, the Muslims that they're killing, like the Christians. So the thing that you heard in the Philippines terrorism, it happens in the southern part because the southern part are 90% Muslims. And I have a lot of friends in southern part that are Christians that they are moving in the on the north or the middle of Philippines because they tried to avoid the Muslims because it's just really pain. Like you cannot have a business. I have a close friend who came from there and she said she started a business in Manila and I told her, why don't you just start business in your province? Like, it's hard when you're dealing with the Muslims because
You're a woman and that.
Yeah,
that thing. So I
yeah.
can see that. Well, I appreciate that. I wanted to, I know both of you, as I said earlier, I kind of met you through politics, so you're obviously very politically active. So we only got a few minutes left in the show, but I want to give you time to maybe talk about some things that you're involved in politically, maybe why you decided to do those types of things. I know you're both very politically active, so could you talk about that a little bit, about what you're doing and maybe why you're doing it?
Sure, let me become a faculty advisor for the YFA. YAF, Young Americans for Freedom, AUF. I'll be honest with you, I try to, disconnect politics and work because, it's a university and I don't think I'm allowed to talk about politics, in the classroom and with my students in my lab, and I try.
Not if you're conservative, that's for sure.
Yeah, but I try to not do that because I think I don't think it's the appropriate forum. But these are actually outside activity, extracurricular activity, and so I'll support them as soon as they request me to become their mentor. So it may happen soon. I also proposed some kind of a march pro-legal immigration. Initially, I thought we should, since people march all over the place for many reasons, we should do a march, a run, or some event against illegal immigration, against human trafficking, etc. But I realized that the other aisle, and this was actually my wife's idea, the other aisle is never against something; they're always pro something. So we're trying to organize, maybe for the fall, through the ACREC, an event in Gainesville that explains the process of being a legal immigrant, how legal immigrants come here because of the American dream, and how they try to keep it alive, like we are after we become Americans, for others to come and do the same. So I'm trying to organize that. I think it will be a nice event also for those who want to become an immigrant. We can share information, how to do it legally, because we all have a lot of experience.
That's great. How about you, Jill? I know you're active.
Yeah, so I join in some rally in pro-life sometimes, and also me and Shuri, like, we talk about supporting our conservative Republican politician who wants to run, and also even they are running in a small position, they need our support. And it's also nice to talk to people that are new citizen and talk about them, what is this Republican, what is Democrat, and let them think about it, what are these, because the thing is, some people I met some people that they just think they are Democrat, but when you talk to them, oh yeah, I'm conservative. Did you support this? Do you support that? So what I wanted to be in politics is helping our politicians who wants to run, the conservative politician, Republican politicians who want to run, and also spreading what is conservatism, because some people, they think conservative or racist. Actually, when I met some people like that, you like President Trump, he's racist. First thing I said, define racism. what racist he said. He never attacked any race. When he said about, funny when he said about like the, what's that, the sink, it's a sinkhole,
Cinco de
no,
Mayo?
no, I forgot this is, and then I said,
When he said S-hole?
no, no, no. Oh, I forgot. What's that? It's just funny. So that's all. I wanted to spread more on about conservatism, and I wanted to talk like to this, whatever your party is, or new citizen, and talk about what is conservatism. And I think, especially here in Alachua County, it's super liberal. So I think it's nice still to, like, from us who came from third world, someone like me who came from third world country, it's nice to talk to them and share to them what is in my country, in my former country is. You want this? This is what happened to my country. This is what destroys my country, and this is what you wanted to happen here.
Yeah, so you're telling them the truth and hoping they'll react a certain
Yeah.
way. Well, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you a couple more very kind of quick things. One, what would be your message to people out there that are going through a similar situation to you? Either they want to become citizens, or they're maybe in the process, or maybe they've just become citizens. Could you talk about any advice to those people about some things you've learned and maybe that could be helpful to them?
Want to go first?
Oh, yes. During my process going here, if I get some errors or mistakes, it slows your process coming to United States. So all the papers, everything, follow the rules, follow the papers that they need. That will make it easier. And if I break law here in US, and then I cannot become a citizen, or you cannot become a citizen. But if you broke a law, the Democrats will going to give you citizenship. That's what I can. Which is unfair. I know you will agree to me. It's unfair. So the much better, when you apply for visa here in US, whatever visa it is, when they ask you about the papers, follow it. If they ask you, okay, you don't have enough money, okay, just they have all these steps. Just follow it. Just give the papers that they asking, and then go for the interview. It's easy, but don't break the law. Just follow the rules.
Well, you mentioned something, and I'll turn it back over to you, Ricardo, but about breaking the law, and this is what people don't. I'm not saying that everybody coming here illegally are criminals in the sense that they're going to, carjack you or something. But what never gets talked about is actually if they're coming from, say, Guatemala, and they come all the way to here, they have broken two laws. They've broken international law, because international law says that you have to seek asylum in the next country that you cross over.
Right.
And if they come here across our border illegally, they've broken that law. So they've broken international law and U.S. law literally at the same time, and no one wants to talk about it. I just want to get that point out there. But go ahead, Ricardo. You want tell me any advice you have to? She pretty much summed it up, I think, about people trying to get here. What about people who have become new citizens? What would you say to someone who is a new U.S. citizen that they might need to know?
To keep the fire that brought you to that choice alive by getting involved. I think this is a nation where you can get involved. You can get involved with politics. You can volunteer. You can really be part of your community and make a difference. And that keeps the dream alive for everybody, because we've been helped by people who act that way. When we were in times of crisis with my wife, that's exactly the kind of people who helped us. So I think Americans care about each other. That's why I believe the government is not the government's job to necessarily care about the fine details of how citizens live, because they are able to take care of themselves for most things. So just be involved. Be aware that you can make a difference, because we come from certain countries where it doesn't matter how hard you work, you can never get to certain positions. You can never make a difference. You can never succeed. Here, as Dinesh D'Souza says, you are the architect of your life. It is true. Your capabilities and your willingness to work are your only limits. So use them. That's my only advice.
So live the American dream.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate both of you coming on the show. I know our listeners appreciate it very much, and basically they just summed it up better than I could. That come to this country, you can literally be whatever you want to be if you're willing to work for it. And I just applaud you. I appreciate you. I look forward to getting to know you guys even better, and I'm excited about the prospects of actually working with you. And perhaps a year or so from now, maybe we'll talk again on the show or something. Sure. and kind of where you were now and where you are then. And so thank you so much for being on here. Thank you out here for listening. I hope you have a great weekend. I'm going fishing, by the way, and I'm going to eat me some noodles when I get off the show here in just a few minutes. Awesome. Compliments of, I'm going to do some cultural appropriation. But I hope you've enjoyed the show. Please like and share our show far and wide. Go to John Martin Talks Facebook directly, like it, and share it with other people. But above all else, have a blessed day.